For more than 250 million years, one animal ruled the sea floor. Not a fish. Not a shark. An armored bug with eyes made of crystal. Then, in a single geological moment, every last one of them vanished. Not a movie. A fossil. We call them trilobites, and by one measure, the most successful animals that have ever lived. They outlasted the dinosaurs. They outlasted us. They outlasted almost everything. So the real mystery isn't how they survived so long. It's why, after 270 million years, they died so completely while so much else crawled on. And the prime suspect? Those eyes made of stone. Hold that thought. Start with the scale of their success. Trilobites appear in the fossil record about 520 million years ago, near the dawn of complex animal life, and they don't disappear until the very end of the Permian, roughly 250 million years later. That is a run of around 270 million years, the longest of any major group of animals we know of. In that time they spread into more than 20,000 named species, from creatures smaller than a fingernail to giants like Isodolus rex, close to 70 centimeters long. Their body is where the name comes from, 3 lobes running head to tail, a central ridge flanked by 2 sides. Hard shell above, jointed legs below, and the ability to roll into an armored ball when threatened. It is a design that, once found, kept working for 500 million years of ocean. But the feature that stops you is the eyes. Trilobites had some of the first true complex eyes on Earth, and their lenses were not made of soft tissue, like yours. They were made of calcite. Stone. Single crystals of the same mineral that forms limestone, grown into lenses and aligned so precisely that they focused light instead of scattering it. No animal before or since has built an eye out of rock. When you look at a trilobite, something is looking back, through crystal. So here is the tempting story. An animal that could see really see in a world where most things barely could. Vision like that would let you find food, spot a predator, navigate the dark of the deep shelf. It is easy to look at those crystal eyes and conclude, this is why they won. This is the edge that carried them across 250 million years. And it might be. But this is where we have to be careful, because it's exactly the kind of clean story that's easy to tell and hard to prove. We know trilobites had extraordinary eyes. What we don't know, and the researchers who study them say this plainly, is why that eye emerged, or exactly what advantage it gave. Plenty of trilobites reduced their eyes, or lost them entirely, and did just fine in the mud and the dark. The eye is real. The eye is the reason they succeeded is a guess. A good one. Still a guess. What we can say for certain is more modest, and maybe more interesting. Whatever made trilobites work, it was durable. It survived not one mass extinction, but several. It shrugged off catastrophes that erased other groups. Which makes the ending even stranger. Because here is the part everyone gets wrong. Ask how trilobites died, and you'll usually hear, the end Permian extinction. The Great Dying. The largest mass extinction in Earth's history, about 252 million years ago, Siberian volcanoes, carbon dioxide, acidified and oxygen-starved oceans, up to 90% of marine species gone. And that is true. That is when the last trilobite disappears. But it is not the whole story, and it's not even most of it. Read the fossils carefully and you find that trilobites were not struck down at the peak of their powers. They were already dying, slowly, for 100 million years. A whole order of them, the Thacopods, was gone by the end of the Devonian. Enter the Permian, and only 3 families were left. Then, in the Middle Permian, millions of years before the Great Dying, over half of the remaining genera vanished in a quieter crisis almost nobody talks about. By the time the volcanoes erupted, this 270 million year dynasty had been reduced to just 5 genera. 5. So the Great Dying didn't topple an empire. It stepped on the last few survivors of one that had already, quietly, collapsed. Which reframes the whole question. It's not how did the most successful animals on Earth get wiped out overnight? Because they didn't. It's why, after ruling for so long, did they run out of second chances? And the honest answer is about variety. For most of their history, trilobites were everywhere, in every marine habitat, in thousands of forms, and that diversity was a kind of insurance. When one crisis hit, some lineage was always different enough, or lucky enough, to carry on. But that insurance thinned across the Devonian and the Carboniferous, until at the end there was almost nothing left to spend. A group down to 5 genera has no reserves. The final catastrophe didn't need to be special. Anything would have finished them. So here is the version we'll carry. Trilobites didn't fail. They won, longer and more completely than almost anything that has ever lived. But even the longest reign narrows, one extinction at a time, until a single bad day is one too many. Their crystal eyes are still out there, turned to stone in the rock, still catching the light. The last thing they ever saw was a world that had, very slowly, stopped making room for them.